Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. Zelos isn't a brand I need to introduce, so I'm gonna just dive right in. This is the forged carbon Timekeepers limited edition dial option for the Blacktip release. 150 of these watches were made available to members of the Zelos Facebook group, and they were released along with the rest of the Blacktip variants. I love what brands like Formex and Zenith did with carbon, and I've been wanting to check out these watches for a while, so I jumped at the chance to spend some time with a carbon dial. I think the material looks great and feels very modern to me. This blacktip variant sold at roughly $500, so not a lot more expensive than their typical dial offerings. Let's check it out. I measured the case to be 41mm in diameter, 47mm from lug to lug, and 12.25mm in height. The case is made entirely of stainless steel and is mostly brushed, with a single polished bevel running down the length of the case. The slim mid-case extends out into a pair of short lugs that curve down towards the wrist, with a lug width of 20mm. The lugs are drilled through, so strap changes are a breeze. The bezel protrudes out of the 40mm case silhouette with a diameter of 41mm and has a good grip that is easy to operate. The bezel action is great with snappy and loud clicks and very little backplay. The insert is made of forged carbon with a Lume diamond-shaped element at the 12 o'clock. All the other markings appear to be just empty cuts into the carbon. I really wish these markings were treated with something or finished slightly better since they look a bit unfinished up close. Maybe even filling them with black paint would have done the trick. There is a loomed 5.25mm screw-down crown at the 3 o'clock position that is a bit smaller than I would have liked, but is fairly easy to grip and operate. The crown operating experience is good with no crown or stem wobble. Flipping it over, you have a solid screw-down case back with an embossed black tip on it. This watch is rated for up to 200 meters of water resistance. The dial is the star of the show here and is made of forged carbon like the bezel insert. I love the forged carbon aesthetic and it seems to be gaining popularity of late. The base material appears to be just a layer of carbon without any polishing or treatment, and this raw and earthy appearance works well here. There's a printed outer minute track which is easy to read and is entirely loomed. Good printing quality here without any glaring printing anomalies. You then have well-proportioned applied indices that have brushed top surfaces and polished sloping sides. The finishing is good and these indices are very generously loomed. 3 of the primary indices have multiple sections with 2 different colors of lume. A very interesting design choice and a design style that Zelos followers are familiar with. There's a frame date window at the 6 o'clock position which perfectly matches the indices in finishing and texture. The date wheel has a black background and white text, which works well against the carbon dial. The brand's logo is applied below the 12 o'clock index and the quality control here isn't great. I noticed some particles on the logo and I think this could have been avoided. But this watch does cost $500 and delivers on many other fronts, so one can argue that this is acceptable. The blacktip text is printed above the date window along with the water rating in orange. I think this looks great and the overall black, grey and orange color combination definitely works. The hour and minute hands continue the same design style and finishing of the indices, and are well proportioned. The hour hand has the same pattern as on the primary indices, and when the hour hand is around these indices, I find it a bit disorienting. I would have preferred if this pattern was reversed or changed slightly on the hour hand, but this is a non-issue to be fair. The finishing on the hands is good and they're generously filled with lume. The seconds hand is painted orange to match the orange accent on the dial. It has a loomed element and almost reaches the outer seconds track. Overall, I like the dial. It's definitely unique and maintains the slightly over-the-top Zelos aesthetic that everybody loves, while also being a little more subtle than some of the other dial options. When you talk about Lume, this relatively recent wave of Chinese manufactured microbrands drastically outperformed their Swiss luxury watch competitors, and it's safe to say that Zelos wears the crown here. Both the design and performance of the Lume are exceptional, and I don't think anyone can complain about this, not even the Seiko Lumi Bright fanatics. In true Zelos fashion, the extravagant design combines 2 types of Lume material, BGW9 for the blue elements and C3 for the green ones. By nature of the materials, the green glows slightly brighter than the blue, but they're both more than sufficient. The fact that the minute track is also loomed earns this watch a bunch of brownie points from me, and I love the blue elements on the hands and indices as well. Great stuff here. The hands and indices are very, very generously loomed, so they glow bright and hold their charge well. I also appreciate the fact that the seconds hand is loomed too. At this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if Zelos begins to loom their logos, text and date windows too. Those are the only aspects of this watch that haven't got the loom treatment. This is my first experience with the Zelos bracelet since the last watch I reviewed was the bronze Mako V3 with a rubber strap. For the $500 price tag, I think this bracelet is beyond adequate. The links are comfortable and articulate well. They're fastened by screw pins, which are actually machined quite well and better than most bracelets in this price range. The clasp is bursting with functionality and is well designed too. The build quality and operating experience is not as smooth as the similarly designed bracelet on the Christopher Ward Dartmouth, but that watch is twice as expensive, and the end result functionality is pretty much similar. The on-the-go quick adjustment is a huge win, and while many luxury brands don't offer this on watches 5 to 6 times the price, Zelos are able to deliver one that is pretty well made. The end link and case fitment is not perfect, with some visible gaps. There isn't any wiggle though, so I'm happy to let this slide given the functionality of the clasp. This watch uses a Miyota 9015 movement, which is pretty good and in this price category, one that I'd prefer over a Seiko NH35. My usual complaints with this movement are the loud rotor noise and the gyroscopic wobble on the wrist, but given the beefy case build, both of these are significantly less observable compared to other watches I've reviewed. On my time grapher, I observed roughly plus 8 seconds per day in the dial up position and plus 8 seconds per day in the crown up position, both acceptable for this movement. To be honest, when I read that this watch was 11.5mm without the crystal and saw photographs of the side profile, I expected this watch to wear quite tall and be slightly unbalanced on the wrist, but I was very wrong. The 12.25mm height and flat case back sit very well on my 6.25-inch wrist. The 41mm diameter was closer to a 39mm watch, and the lug-to-lug width of 47mm ties it all in quite nicely. It's an easy watch to wear and delivers a comfortable wrist experience both on bracelet and third-party straps. No complaints from me here, and I think this watch will wear well on a wide range of wrist sizes. Overall, I like this watch, and I think it may be on my list of best-looking Zelos watches. It's hard to argue with their prices, and when you buy one, you can be sure to get a watch that earns every dollar of your money. And if there's something wrong, I've heard great things about Zelos customer service, so you're in good hands. At the time of this review, this special edition forged carbon option has already sold out, along with the red and teal dials. Not to worry though, the desert stand is still available, which is probably my second favorite design from this release. This review has been primarily positive with very little criticism from me, but I genuinely find it hard to argue with the value being delivered here, and this watch does a good job on every front and a great job on the Lume. As always, thanks for watching and don't forget to read my other reviews in the link below.